Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today for our expert interview series. And I'm really excited to have Morgan on here. She's a physical therapist who runs a cash-based practice. And what I really liked about her business is that she really went the non-conventional route. She went to opening not only her own business, but a cash-based business. And I've always been a huge advocate for running cash-based, just because, especially being in Canada, dealing with insurance companies is really big pain. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're dictating the best treatment. So I thought it would be great for her to bring her on today to talk a little bit about her process of starting a cash-based business and kind of her first year to getting to where she is now, and really being able to help those who are thinking about starting their own business, especially going cash-based, some tips and tricks and things that she navigated to being able to have some success. So thanks for joining me today, Morgan, and I really appreciate you being on here. So maybe just give everyone a little bit of background, a little bit about you and how you got into everything.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be here. I'm really excited. A little bit of background about me. I graduated in 2018 with my doctorate in PT. I went to school in upstate New York, and now I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. So a little bit of a change of scenery with that. But my boyfriend and I, we came out here to start our first real jobs outside of school. And I started at a high volume outpatient clinic, and it was the worst. I don't think I've ever been so depressed in my life, and I joke about it, but also pretty serious about it too. It was just, it really opened my eyes to a lot of the ways that like traditional therapy is done. And it's a lot more about, like how much can the clinic make versus like how good of care are we providing to our patients. At least in my experience, not everywhere is like that, but that's what it really showed me. And I just found myself, not only like crying morning, noon, and night every day I had to work because I was so overwhelmed and stressed out and tired. But it was also just like breaking my heart, that I couldn't spend the time with patients that I really wanted to and like that they deserved. Like myself as a caregiver, and I think a lot of people resonate with this, is like building a relationship with somebody and taking care of them is like a huge reason why a lot of us go into healthcare. Is you want to be able to provide for that person and show them that you do care. And when you're given like 5 minutes maybe to try to cram all of that in and like also educate the patient and progress their exercises and all that stuff, it's just not, it ends up not being fulfilling. It ends up being like really, really draining. And my thought of spending the next 30 years of my life doing that, I can't even fathom. Can't like, I lasted 5 months in my outpatient job before I quit. And then I did a lot of home health, which was cool because it was one-on-one and also really flexible. But again, like insurance just kind of ended up getting in the way, and I was being told how many sessions I could have with patients rather than me being the professional and telling the insurance how many visits that they needed. It just like again and again and again, it didn't matter what I said on my assessment. I would say like, hey, this person can't stand up. They also had a stroke. Like they need a lot. And so like in my professional opinion, I really think we need to start with like 12 visits or so to get anywhere. And then the insurance would come back and be like, okay, well, here's 4. Like good luck. Good luck rehabbing this person, in 4 sessions. And I just had somebody last month who broke their hip and they got 3 sessions. And that was going to be it. That was going to be all their insurance coverage. And I was like, okay. So anyway, I worked at different outpatient practices last year. I worked at probably 7 different home health agencies, like just trying to find somewhere that would allow me to practice the way that I wanted to and the way that I knew would be most effective and beneficial to my patients. And at least where I live, I could not find that no matter how hard I tried. And that is when I decided to open my cash-based practice last October. And I started working with CrossFit athletes, and it's been awesome because that's something I've always been an athlete, and I've always loved sports and being active and helping people with their health and fitness. So it was a really great opportunity, and I got to help a lot of people improve, in this non-traditional way, and everybody was happy, and it was a really good time.
Yeah, I totally get it. I think that that's a big thing that a lot of us, I mean, I definitely experienced it myself when I was going to school and doing like a placement and realizing like, man, none of these people are really getting any better. And I was working in a like kind of like a sports med clinic, and like the orthopods and stuff would be like, well, just do physical therapy or do massage or whatever. It's very like transactional based, and it's not actually really focused on the outcomes. And for us, it was like very much about room to room to room and give them some exercises, tubing, okay, out the door. And I really started asking questions myself. And I know we chatted about this before where I was like, hey, these people aren't getting better and I'm not really making money. And like at the end of the day, we want to help people, we want to make some money, and we don't want to be standing in the way. Same with insurance. Like in Canada, a lot of people are just very much about like, well, I've got this much insurance. And it's like, okay, cool. You've got a discount that you can use, but it's going to cost you X number of dollars because you need these sort of results. So maybe like get into the mindset about how you started to position yourself even, because I know that when you're going cash based and, out of the network, then you've got a lot more sort of resistance in some regard with people, because they could say, especially in Canada, well, I can go get it for free down the road, so why would I come see you?
Yeah, and that's a huge question that I know a lot of people have when you're first getting started. And I try really hard to remember, all the way back to about a year ago. And I think like I dealt with a little bit of like fear around it, like who's going to pay me. But then at the end of the day, I was so angry with the healthcare system that I was like, there's no other option than to serve people this way. And I did have some people where, I told them my cost and they were like, one person in particular, like I still have the Facebook message from them. I told him that I charged $125 a session, and he messaged me back and said, I would rather go to a clinic where I can pay $15 every visit. And, sometimes people are going to say that to you, and it's like, okay, great, like go do that, and at least here, I know for a fact that person is not going to get in for 3 weeks, for their eval, and probably not for another 3 weeks to even have a treatment session, so like you could go do that, or I can see you in less than 12 hours, and help you with your back that you just threw out this weekend. So sometimes like going over like those things with people has been helpful. And even for me too, like building up my confidence and things and explaining to myself, like all the pros of working with somebody who's cash based, it really outweighs a lot of the cons. So like there are some people who are going to want to use their insurance anyway, but most of the time when you can sit down with somebody and, right from the get-go offer like exceptional customer service that they're not going to get in any other healthcare office, nearby, and you explain to them like, hey, based on what you have going on, I really think this is what will help you, and you can show a way that you'll deliver those results. I haven't been met with as much resistance as I thought I would, for the people that I did have the time to like sit down and get to know them. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a big thing to kind of detail, maybe, is even just like some of the advantages that I think a lot of people don't realize. And it's like, yeah, well, you guess what? You're getting me one-on-one, no other patients in the next room. You're getting my undivided care and attention, and you're getting in right away. You're not going to have to go get a script from a doctor and all this other stuff. You can come in right away, you get attention right away, one-on-one care. And also what I like what you said was creating a really good experience as well. And I think that that's one really, really important thing from cash-based practice, is that you really need to create an exponential amazing experience and culture. And I had another guest on here talking about how to create that. I know Jerry Durham, he's another guy. We talk a lot about the experience as well. But that's really huge in being able to get people to come back. So maybe, if you could touch base on some things that you found maybe from your marketing message and how you created a really good experience. So that way people felt more inclined to not giving as much resistance, but also maybe finding the right people as well. And like how you kind of found people who are not sort of insurance chasers, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I did start off inside a CrossFit gym. So I was kind of renting out space and working with people that were there. And like immediately, like that audience are people who invest in their health and fitness, because like CrossFit gyms tend to be a little bit higher than the average gym. And they're also people who are there all the time. And there tends to be a really good community there. And so when I started off right there in the gym, I had already been part of the community for like 6 or 8 months or so. So people already knew me, and they knew what I was like as a person. So then when I just started hanging out at the gym with my table, like that definitely drew people's attention. And it was cool to have the option of, like a medical professional right there in the gym, that they didn't have to go out to another clinic and see somebody. And I was able to work with them right then and there, and I think it also helps sometimes too, that, like people are already paying cash for the gym. They already pay cash for nutrition. They already pay cash for one-on-one personal training. Now it's just adding this element of, well, there's also this cash service where I can help you recover from an injury. And so talking to people in that way, because we had so many shoulder injuries, like 98% of what I saw. So I became quite the shoulder expert, explaining to people like, hey, like I can get you back to lifting overhead, in 5 sessions or whatever, and it's going to cost this amount. They'll pay for that result because it's right there in the gym. And I was seeing people like before and after their workouts. And so it just like, it fit really nicely into the flow of their life. And making myself available for questions as much as I could. And also like when I would do consults with people, there's a package, my dog's gonna bark. Spending time with people that doesn't feel super rushed. Like I think a lot of us have probably experienced a 5 minutes doctor visit. I had, sorry, yeah.
And being late as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Like I had multiple people tell me that they just really appreciated the fact that, I was there with them the entire appointment, just like looking them in the eye and asking them what was wrong, and they really appreciated the opportunity to be able to talk to somebody about everything that was going on. So.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important, is to find a bit. I think you did it intuitively, is find people who are the right fit. So that ultimately you're getting the right type of niche or market that's going to, pay and is invested in. And one of my niches when I started out was I worked in a gym as well. And it's like weight training athletes who've had injuries for longer than 6 months, seeing 2 or more practitioners. Well, the huge advantage there is, people who are already invested and whatnot, and they're willing to pay. So I know just myself, like I've never had insurance myself, and I've always paid thousands and thousands of dollars a year on these services, and you want to surround yourself with the right people. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So maybe tell like a little bit about some of your thoughts on like how you even came to start that cash practice, and what are some tips and tricks that you found out when you went through that everyone should know, but sometimes are overlooked.
Yeah. Great question. So I'm thinking of like 2 off the top of my head, maybe 3. I think like the number one thing that I will tell people who are trying to start like at least like a physical therapy practice is that you cannot sell physical therapy. It's just like, it's not going to happen. There are some people who will try to tell you, like you can change the system, but it's not on you as an individual. If you're wanting to be a solo practice owner, at least like getting started, and you're wanting to go the cash-based route, like nobody knows what physical therapy is. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to know what it is. All they want is a solution to their problem. They want somebody to help them solve their pain. And so like what I just found, like when I was first getting started, like the more I tried to say like, I'm a physical therapist and I sell physical therapy, like I would just get like blank looks. And like it just like doesn't translate at all. But if I presented myself as like a movement and injury specialist, who works with athletes who have shoulder pain, then it like immediately translates right to the target audience. Like, oh, Morgan's the girl to go see. If you're injured, if you have shoulder pain, whatever it is, she can help you. And I think that that's a big thing. Like, I don't know if it's like overlooking it, but kind of like a mistake that I think will really stunt your growth when you're first getting started. Is trying to sell like what you're licensed in, because the only people who care about that is other therapists. And unless like you're treating other therapists, I don't really know that, it'll really apply. And I think the other thing that I would say, and like I think this kind of just comes with experience too, and like building confidence, but showing up so incredibly consistently day in and day out for like the first phase of your business is going to get you so far. And like as part of that showing up, you have to be willing to reach out to people, and tell them about what it is that you do and ask them if they need help, because most of the time people will not ask for help. Especially when it comes to like pain and injury, especially if you're working with athletes, like they're not going to tell you, they're just going to work through it. And I think like a big mistake that I see a lot of therapists making when they're first getting started is they'll make like a really pretty website, and make like a Facebook business page, and then they'll sit back and then they're like, where are the clients? Like, where are the patients? Why are my doors not being knocked down with patients?
Yeah, because I got my D, right? I got my doctor and I did all these.
Yeah, nobody cares. Good for you. Like, I'm really proud to have a doctorate, but nobody else really cares. They just want you to help them. They just want you to show them that you care. And so like that is on you to go out and do that. You can't sit back. You're not going to get patients. So those are like two really big things.
For sure. And what are some things that you did to show up consistently, doing the work? I think that's really, really important. Like, what are some things that you did that you found to be really helpful in accelerating your progress?
Yeah. So, one thing that I did, and this is like might be specific to like a gym that has like classes or whatever, but like I always just like went to the 5 a.m. class and that was it. And so I got to know the 5 a.m. class really well, but there was still like 150 other people going to the gym. So when I started going to all different classes throughout the day, I would also like stand at the front of the class before the workout started and introduce myself, and talk about what I did and like how people could find me if they needed help. And then I would stay after and answer questions as well and introduce myself to new people. So, I would reach out, like physically, literally reach out to people in the classes and in the community and introduce myself, and make myself known. And then I also participated, not only in the workouts at the gym, but I also participated in the nutrition program and also got to know the team and the staff at the gym, and offered like the coaches, offered them like free therapy sessions so that they would understand what it is that I did, so that they could tell other people about it too. And then like another big part of it, I think for like a lot of like CrossFit gyms in particular, but they have big Facebook groups, and they're usually pretty active there. So figuring out where it is your audience is and showing up, adding value to that group and that platform, that was really, really helpful too.
For sure. And when you're setting up some of those things like joint ventures, or you're just sort of talking to some of those people, what kind of things do you say, or how do you position it so that way people kind of get invested? And I guess it's sort of tied into a lot of the time people make it about them. And, you kind of mentioned, I always say this, people buy solutions, not service. And, when people go out, they're like, I hear often, well, I go and talk to people in the class, or I go out and talk. But what they do is they're saying, hey, I'm Morgan, I'm the physical therapist, and come book with me, kind of thing. I can help you. So maybe give some insight and sort of a script or something you would think of about how you would position it, so that way they'd be really inclined to take you up on those offers.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, one thing that I do just like as a person too is, like I check in with people. So, like if I talk to one person on Monday and they tell me that they're moving to a new house like that weekend, the next week I will engage with them again and like build like a genuine relationship and ask them about their life, and then like ask them about how things are going. And like, if there is an opportunity where, they tell me about some problems that they're having, or, they mention somebody else that's having problems, then, I would enter into a conversation about that, and asking, kind of like a screening conversation, so like if I have like built this relationship with somebody that I'm friends with at the gym now, and, I notice that they're not doing pull-ups anymore. I might ask them like, hey, what's going on with that? Like, why didn't you do the pull-ups in the workout today? And they could say like, hey, yeah, I've been having, a lot of shoulder pain when I've been doing the pull-ups, so I'm just avoiding it for now. And so I would ask them a little bit more about what's been going on with that, like how long has it been bothering you? What have you tried to fix it? And do you want help? I think that's a big part of like any script, or kind of like any like entry conversation that you have with somebody, is asking permission to help them, versus just being like, book a free consult, like, go to my link or give me a call or whatever. But like gently being the person to say like, I can help you. I've helped people who've had this problem before, and, would you be open to talking about that a little bit more? And if they say yes, then also offering like a free consult, like let's meet after class today and we can kind of go over your problem, what's been going on with that, and see if I have any suggestions for you or if I can help you. And so like taking the conversation down that route has been a lot more helpful for me. And like even on Saturdays, I would hold like free consults for a couple hours and just talk to people after class. That's been really good. So that's typically the way that I talk to like potential clients.
Sure. So actually like be invested in them and actually care about them, and just sort of,
Yeah.
instead of just trying to sell them whatever. I think it's a really big thing. And while we laugh at it, we get that a lot. Like I've seen so many people that's what they do. They go out and just make it about them and say, hey, you know what, I can help you, and I've got this, and that. But a lot of it is that people buy from people who they know, like, and trust. So establishing some of that relationship, or giving value to people, I think is really, really important. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So in terms of like when you're sort of getting some momentum going and so on, were there any like sort of snags or things that you sort of got stuck on as you were going through a cash-based practice instead of insurance? Like some random challenges or roadblocks that you didn't really expect?
Let's see. So as far as being like cash-based, let's see. Almost like no problems just being like cash based, but a couple of issues that did arise were like, one, I evaluated a client one time and he had signed all of his paperwork and everything, and he had tore his quad tendon like 6 months ago, so it was already like not a great situation.
Yeah.
And he had like done nothing for it, like he tore it and just didn't do anything about it. So
Doctor?
nope, no doctor, nothing.
Wow.
Yeah. But I evaluated him, and it seemed like he really needed somebody to be there for him. And so I was like, you know what, we're going to try to figure something out and see what we can do. And it seemed like it was going really well. And then the following week, he was supposed to have an appointment, and he canceled like the hour before. And I had my cancellation policy in place. It said, if you cancel same day, it's going to be a whatever charge. And so I told him that, and he got very upset with me, like extremely upset with me, and like cursed at me on the phone and everything. And it was just like not great. And so like little Morgan over here like cried the whole day because I'd never been yelled at like that. But what that taught me is if you're going to have these policies in place, specifically with a cancellation policy that involves a fee, if they miss or no show or whatever it is, going over those expectations on your first time with the client, whether it is like a consult or the eval, but going over your expectations on how things work, for both you, like providing the service, and asking the client what their expectations are, and starting off right on the first like day on a good foot, everything's clear, everyone's on the same page. It's going to set the tone for the whole thing, and you're not going to get yelled at on the phone probably. So that was one big thing that happened. And then the other thing that I would recommend to anybody.
Systems in place so that you can explain.
Yeah. Anybody who's entering into a business agreement with like another business, so like potentially partnering up and everything, is, make sure that your values line up, and having an understanding of how you can both like best support each other and working together and making sure it's a really good fit, I think is really important. Because if you get into the relationship quite a bit and your values are not matching up and your expectations are not being met, and you're not executing on your end of the bargain, it makes that relationship a little bit rough, and then can impact everybody and not be the best situation. So I know that's pretty vague, but that was just something I learned as well in working with another business.
Yeah, I think that's really important too. And I think both of those scenarios even just come down to like maybe communications and stuff as well. And I think, as entrepreneurs, we get like really excited and we want to get going with stuff, but we really need to make sure that we're communicating and over communicating and making sure that everyone's really on the same page. Because I've had the same sort of issue where, things are not necessarily done the right way. And, then it creates other issues further down the road. And, obviously it's a lot more challenging to deal with stuff at that point than, just sort of deal with it in the beginning, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you've got someone, I hear this a lot, I'm sure you probably do too, is you've got people who are thinking about getting started, but they're not really sure on where to start. And, they're worried and sort of getting up and running. So what would be some advice you'd give to someone if they're sitting on the fence saying, hey, you know what, I want to start my own business. I want to get into cash base and leave insurance and all that other stuff and work kind of for the patients. What would you give them in terms of advice to start and kick that off?
Number one, you can take my free mini course, Therapy Business Basics.
I'll make sure I link that below.
I think I would surround yourself with as many like-minded people as you possibly can, and reach out to other, if you're wanting to do cash-based physical therapy, reach out to as many cash pay physical therapists as you can, and ask them like, hey, I'm totally new at this. Where should I start? What do you recommend, and get different perspectives on things. But building a community around yourself of, a network of other professionals who are doing what you want to do, super helpful. You can do this online. Like Facebook has a huge community of people who are doing this. But I also did this locally. So in my city, we have this little journal club for PTs who have their own businesses. And that's been incredibly powerful because there are people, that you can literally go meet for coffee and ask them for help on what you're doing. And then it's also been cool to just have like a referral network for different patients and everything. So building yourself a community. And then, if you're anything like me, I do best when I'm working with a mentor who says, like, Morgan, this is what you need to do over the next 2 weeks in order to move yourself forward into the next phase. Like having that accountability and that direction from an external source, like somebody who's done what you want to do, has been like completely invaluable. I think a lot of people try to do it on their own, and a lot of people are really successful doing that, but it's a little bit of a bumpier road to get there. And so like that's been really helpful too, is having like a point person to ask like, hey, what should I do with this? Hey, what should I do with that? So I think those would be like my 3 pieces of advice. Is my mini course will tell you what to do to get started. And then build yourself a good community that's a good support system. And, if you're somebody who likes accountability and direction, consider hiring a coach, because it will help you get there a lot faster and a lot smoother.
Yeah, I think that's a really big thing. I've always invested a lot myself in making sure that I'm having people who are further ahead or have a bit of a framework, obviously, to be able to help guide that way and so on.
Yeah.
So in terms of like where you are now in your business, you're obviously more established, you got some more patients and so on. What kind of things are you working on now? So like, if someone's starting to get that traction, they've hired a mentor, they're moving along. What are some things that you're facing, or your next challenges, I guess, so far are?
Um, just inhaled, I don't even know what. But next challenges, I think, like right now in my practice, I have a handful of clients, and that's like what I'm really happy with treating. I spend most of my time now helping other therapists, but I remember like back earlier this year, I was like getting to a point where my caseload was increasing so much, where I was like, oh my God, like I'm so busy. Like I have so many clients and so many people to worry about. So, I think like one piece of it could be, evaluating how many people you really want to have on caseload and how many, there he goes. Hold on a second. Go check. So I think like you get to a point, so like you hired a mentor, you're seeing patients, it's amazing, you're having a great time. I think you need to be realistic with yourself about like how much you as like a single practitioner can handle. I have a lot of people who come to me who say they want to open their own practices and they want to see like 30 or 40 patients a week. And like, at least for me, I'm like, you don't want that. You don't want that, just by yourself. Like that's a lot to try to handle. And so I think you need to evaluate like what it is you really want to be doing in your business. If it is treating, like you want to be the like single clinician, you might want to think about like hiring a virtual assistant to help you with some admin stuff, so you don't have to like spend as much time doing that. Or you might hire somebody to help you with the marketing, so that you don't have to worry about that branch of your business. Because when you're first getting started, you're wearing all the hats, you are all of the departments, and like you need to be, as close to 100% in all of them. And like you can only do so much as a human. So I think that was where I was starting to get to, like right before COVID came, where I was maxing out my caseload, and I had to be like, okay, what's next? COVID came next. So I had a little dip. But that's a challenge that I see a lot of people facing. And that's also another good reason to have a mentor too, because you have somebody to kind of like bounce ideas off of and discuss where you're at.
Yeah, I totally get it. I think that's super important. And then, I guess like as you getting busier, you obviously want to have systems and automations and delegate some stuff out so that you can spend time, doing things that are going to make you money and obviously interacting with people and making sure you're getting the best results. Maybe like chat a little bit about pricing, because I know that that's a big thing that people get hung up on, that I hear a lot about is they're scared to raise their prices, or if they are doing cash pay, they're using something that they would like competing with clinics. So, I'd love to get your insight in terms of that and how you price and your suggestions.
Yeah. So pricing is always something that people ask about. Everybody's so nervous about it. And I think like the way that we're trained is we never in like an insurance-based system, as a staff therapist, you don't handle the money. So like you almost like have like no concept of what's happening. And so then when it comes to pricing your own services, if you've never had to do that, it's like, well, geez, like, all kinds of thoughts go through your head, like who's going to pay me this? Like, will people be able to afford this? Is this too much? Is it too little? And so like one piece of advice that I have is to just pick something and go with it. And as far as like numbers go, I like to tell people that, on the one hand, it needs to be something that you feel comfortable telling somebody. But on the other hand, you might consider pushing it a little bit. So I like to say somewhere on the line of, I'm super comfortable saying this and I want to throw up in my mouth after I say this, as far as pricing goes, to just like push yourself a little bit, because I think a lot of us would feel comfortable saying like $15 a session, but that's not going to really get you anywhere. So like what I have found to work best for myself and my pricing and what I like to do practicing is I offer two types of base rates. So I have a 45-minute option, which is good if I don't really feel like the patient needs a lot of work. They need something more affordable. They don't have a lot of time. And it's also good for telehealth. So 45 minutes is $90. And then for my in-person appointments, I typically do an hour and a half because I feel like I can get a lot done in that time and neither of us feel rushed. And I charge $175 a session for that. And to me, that feels really good and seems reasonable and is also like within the range of what is like more common across the country. So I know you mentioned like comparing it to clinics, but I kind of like to think of a good way to start is like, well, what are other cash pay providers charging? And
Yeah.
typically it's between like 150 and 200 a session, and usually an hour session is what most people do. If you're within the range of like normal of that, then I think that's a good place to be. And then the other thing that's worked really well for me, in spirit of selling a solution, is offering packages of sessions. So like usually I have a free consult of some sort and then sell patients into a package. And that's worked a lot better for me because the patient is bought in. I'm being paid up front. So like everybody is again on the same page. We know that we're both going down this road together. Because when I was doing like single sessions and one-offs, I had way more like cancellations and reschedules and like people deciding they were done with their plan of care than I do selling packages, and like, as a clinician, if your best estimate is I can fix this problem in 6 sessions, if somebody stops after 2, like you're not serving the patient, you're not fixing their problem. And so like that's a big reason that I sell the package, is because I know I can get the result in that package time frame, and I'm serving my audience the best by doing that.
Yeah, I love that. And I always look at that as like plans of care and making sure that we're, telling people what they need and holding them accountable, because that's a reason why people come to us a lot of the time too, is that we can hold them actually accountable to the results that they're looking at. And that way we're not making it transactional based about being a service where it's like, hey, you come for physio and yeah, we'll make your shoulder better in 2 sessions. But meanwhile, they actually need more help because there's further dysfunctions or whatever else that might be. So plans of care, I think, is really, really important. Some practitioners do this, some practitioners don't, but I think it's really important to make it about that solution or the result that they're trying to get. So that way, it's a lot easier for that person to have an outcome, and then you're going to get less cancellations. You're also going to get more referrals and so on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, that's really what it's all about. Like, that's part of the reason why you can charge like a higher rate is because you're offering unparalleled service. You're not going to find this anywhere else. And that's like also something that can help your confidence is your patients are not going to find this level of care in an insurance-based model. They're just not, so that's also, that goes into the pricing as well.
Yeah. People always pay for results and they will invest in it because it's like, that's why different cars exist. You can go buy a Toyota or you can go buy a Bentley. Like there's reasons why people buy that. Yeah, they kind of do the same thing, but there's reasons why. There's reasons why people buy first class and so on. So, positioning yourself, you actually end up opening a segment of the market who I've experienced, and you probably have as well, I would imagine, where the people are more invested in the result anyways. They're more like about doing the homework and less about sort of stingy and like, well, I got $300, so I guess I'll just use that. And, I'll live with back pain for the rest of my life because I have this, you actually get a segment of the clients that are generally better, which you find that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Totally get it. So anything else that you feel is really important to bring up in terms of, starting a cash-based business, growing a cash-based business based on your successes?
I think like one thing that I always tell people, and like obviously biased, but if you are even thinking about it a little bit, that this is something that you want to try, like the time is now to do it. You have to try it. You have to give it your all to see if it's something that you can make, whether it is because you want to serve your patients better, you want to make more money, you want to have better life balance, whatever it is, you have to try it. Like stop holding yourself back. It's gonna be messy, you're gonna make mistakes, but you're gonna learn from those, and this is going to make you a much better person overall. Like that's something that I also tell people is that building a business is like the greatest self-development tool that you will ever find. And so if that's something that's important to you, to add a little like color to your life and grow as a person, this is a great opportunity to do that as well. So just starting out, you should try it. You should do it because, there's no reason not to. You can always find a regular job somewhere else. And like, as far as like growing your business, I think one thing that's really key is, remembering that you are going to make a ton of mistakes. And that's fine. Everybody has, and that makes you more human, more genuine, and people gravitate towards that. But you have to keep showing up relentlessly. Obviously you need time for yourself, but, the consistency is so key. It's not even funny. And you have to relentlessly show up and show your value and reach out to people and create the opportunity that you want. And I think that it sounds really simple, but, I've talked to some people who just like, they're just not willing to go the extra mile. And I think that that's going to make a big difference between the people who find a couple clients like every few months and the people who have a full caseload, is that you have to keep going and just keep asking questions, and every single day you'll continue to grow. So as long as you're willing to try to do all of that stuff, then this could be the opportunity that you need.
Love it. Yeah, I think it's so important. Mindset and consistency, and making sure that you've got your why as to what you're like trying to do. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your tips and tricks and everything else like that. So I know that you help people grow your people grow their cash-based business. So maybe tell people a little bit about how people can find you, get in touch with you. And I know that you've got that business builder program as well that I can link people to.
Yeah, absolutely. So really excited about that. Therapy Business Basics is this mini course that's like, if you have like literally nothing, like don't know anything about anything, this is the course for you. It's totally free right now. And it will take you from, knowing nothing to, okay, I have at least the bare minimum infrastructure in place so that I can say yes to the next patient who asks to work with me privately. So that is a great place to start. And then I specifically work with people who are between like 0 and 12 months in their businesses grow and develop that first initial caseload. And also I work with them on creating digital marketing plans and getting those initial systems in place. So to find me, I am all over the place. Best place is probably Facebook. So if you want to send me a friend request and send me a message, that's totally fine. I'm on Instagram at Dr. Morgan Meese. And then I also have a Facebook group, which is currently called Cash-Based Healthcare Entrepreneurs. And my website is just morganmeese.com.
Cool. I'll make sure I link those things in the bottom below. So I appreciate you
Awesome.
Coming on. Any other final thoughts before we sign off?
Oh my God, everything. Just do it. If you want to start a practice, just do it. It'll be awesome. And thank you so much for having me, Brad.
No problem. Thanks for coming on.